All right, we are live. Thanks for coming in, everybody. Today we have Rand Taylor from the Fuel Ox Company and Industrial Sustainability Group here, and we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of different things today. Rand has been on the show before, and there's a lot of things we've talked about, a lot of things we haven't really gotten into yet. So I'm kind of excited. Rand, thanks for coming in.
Hey, great to be here. I know it's a little early for most people, but you know
You're a
what
busy
we
guy.
make
We
it
got to
whenever
get you while we can.
we make it whenever we can. I am excited. I'm excited to be here. Really enjoy working with you, Adam,
Awesome.
and all your crew. So
Yeah,
looking
we're
forward to it.
really happy to have you as part of the group here. Try to surround ourselves with the best people in the industry, and you're one of them. Bring a lot of value to this community, to mining, to the marine industry, to the trucking industry, uh, agriculture industry. I see you're starting to see you in a lot of different places. Saw you on the Nasdaq channel. Um, I see all these little interviews you do on I think the Jim Bohannon show you were on. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We've been fortunate. We've been getting a lot of exposure, and people like to talk about these things because there's a lot going on in this whole transfer of the whole way the market is changing in
yeah,
trucking and in heavy equipment. They're pushing the EV on everybody and everything else, but there are so many changes that are taking place. If you're not paying attention, you pick your head up one day and you go, "Holy cow, that happened!" It's getting a little crazy out there, but you got
yeah.
to keep your finger on the pulse, and that's what you do.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the things we haven't really talked about much as an aspect of your products is the environmental part of it. Now there's a big gap between, pardon the language, but being a tree hugging dirt worshiper, and on the other end here, dumping gallons of lead into the local river and not caring about the environment. Most of us are somewhere in the middle there, where we sure do care about the environment and not trying to poison it and do the right thing, but not willing to go as far as say, oh, this gypsy snail is worth more than human lives, right? So there's that whole middle ground, and there's a lot of room to play around in there, and a lot of dirty little secrets in the green energy movement. We were just talking about one, um, with with these EV vehicles. They require a lot of rare earth metals, toxic metals, cobalt being one of them. And you were telling me you've been to Africa and seen people going to work in these toxic mines in subhuman conditions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, most of us when we think about mining, we think about the local quarry down the street that when they're blasting whether it's granite or talc or whatever we have locally here in the around you in the United States, and they're hauling it with haul trucks and they're pulling and they're putting it into crushers and they're and so forth, and it just we know how that all works. It's all very organized and it's all very professional for the most part, and
Hmm.
but when you go to Africa, it's eye-opening because you have those operations for sure, but then you have this whole subset of mining in these places, and they call them artisanal miners, and they're literally groups of 5 or 10 guys, sometimes just a couple, that will literally go out and into the mining areas, because if there's a particular mineral in one area where they're mining it, in a big professional manner, you can bet that mineral is all around there as well. Okay,
Right.
so these guys go out there, particularly when you were talking about cobalt, and lithium, and some of these other um, uh, these other minerals. These hard to find and very valuable minerals. Most of them needed for lithium ion batteries or anything having to do with high tech electronics requires all these minerals. Couple things. First of all, you mentioned that we talked about earlier is that a lot of them tend to be very toxic.
Yes,
That's
incredibly
one of
toxic.
that's one of the reasons why we don't mine them here in the United States. We
Hmm.
have them here. Okay. We don't have an abundance of them that they have in other parts of the world, but we do have them. There's quite a few of these out, particularly in the West. I think the Carolinas have a couple mines that have these as well, but we don't mine them here in the United States, or I should say we're starting to remine them now because they're the value. But we went through a time there where we stopped mining in the United States because they're so toxic. Okay, radioactive, toxic, just they're just, they're bad minerals,
Yeah,
but
and
they're
and
really
EVs are
valuable.
EVs are chocked full of these things.
Loaded with them,
So I
right?
mean, remember that anytime you're buying a Lightning or a whatever other electric vehicle, that
Yeah.
there's you might be feeling all good about saving fossil fuels, but somebody halfway around the world is playing with cobalt with their bare
Well,
hands.
these artisanal miners will go in, and particularly in these very, very poor countries,
Hmm.
they'll go in and they will literally dig with their hands. They'll have shovels, they'll have hose, they'll have whatever they can, pickaxes, and they'll, like, for instance, the cobalt, they'll go in there with kids, the whole family will go in there, and they'll pull this stuff out. And it's very toxic. They're handling it with their hands. They don't care. They don't know. Most of them just don't know how
So
toxic it
it's the only
is.
thing they can do to survive too. It's all they got.
Exactly. And they'll take it and they'll bag it up and they'll haul it down the road and they'll sell it. In most places, they're selling to these Chinese entities that are buying the cobalt and everything for them and then processing it alongside of the big Chinese mines that are there as well, right? So, but these people are doing this for a couple dollars a day. No,
Yeah.
it's subsistence is all it is. So yeah, I've seen that. It's fascinating. Um, it's heartbreaking, but it is what it is at this moment, and
Yeah.
and I don't see anything really changing there.
No, but the American people need to. I mean, if you want to see the videos of these mines for yourself, look up. I think Google or YouTube Joe Rogan cobalt mines. You'll see the videos of these things yourself and just the awful conditions these people are working in. So when we're feeling good about saving a tree or not burning a gallon of fossil fuel, um, is a human life worth that?
Well,
Because
you can take it one step further because it's even worse than that because 70% of every EV piece of machinery that
hmm
we sell in this country comes from China. 70%. So
wow,
whether it's the batteries or the actual processing of the minerals, all the other electronics that go in there, the actual I mean, Teslas are made there, you know.
right?
So they have factories there, but a lot of this work in China for the EV industry is being conducted by slave labor from the Uyghurs.
Yeah,
And
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 you've
these
been
and
around the
these
world and you've seen this.
I have not
I mean,
I've not been to China to see this,
you've spent
but
the time in
I know
Africa.
in Africa I've been to. But I could tell you the Chinese issue being that it's 70% of every EV piece of machinery, at least 70% is manufactured in China.
Wow, and
And a
that's
lot of that is being done by slave labor as
yeah,
well.
and we're only talking about the manufacture part of it. There's the whole other end when it comes time to dispose of all this stuff. I mean,
Mm.
what do you do with
Yeah,
it?
there's actually a huge I would say huge, but there's a growing industry out there. First of all, there's a growing industry everywhere around all of the alternative energy things that are happening. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have companies out there who are working specifically to recondition or dispose of used lithium ion batteries, um, solar cells, all these things. Because right now there's no way to get rid of any of them
Hmm.
without totally destroying the landfills that they're going into and having to close them and cap them for thousands of years. You cannot. There's no way to recycle them at the moment. There are companies though that are working specifically on that, and like anything else, I think when humans put their minds to things, they get things done. And I think
Right.
there will be an answer to that somewhere, but there isn't one now.
Well,
So,
it's interesting you say that because I think that's where the problem lies. I think like I don't want to come up here and say, "Oh, EVs are bad; they should never happen; they should never exist." But that's not the truth. Like we need cleaner energy. But I think the reason we're having a lot of these problems is because it's not happening organically through free market demand. It's happening through mandates. Like you said on Nasdaq, it's coming through mandates, and things get rushed and pushed and forced through without any kind of solutions or proper regulations or whatever. And that's where the problems lie. If it happened organically through the free market, the solutions would come along with the development of the products. You would have
right.
the disposal in place. You would have, you know, humane sources for these
Well,
products.
well, yeah, you're 100% right. And the way I look at mandates pick winners. Okay,
Exactly.
mandates don't create competition and create and make people more creative about solving problems. Mandates pick the winners. So whoever making them rule the mandate uh, probably has some. In this day and age, I hate to say it because this country has become so corrupt, that they
Oh, yeah.
probably have some other alternative, you know, desire to take place, when they create the mandate. Now, having said that, let's back up and talk about EV for a second. What really is the EV market? What do these vehicles do? They store energy. Okay, they don't create energy. I
Right.
think that a lot of the people who are buying these electric cars, they don't even have a clue that they're really not creating energy and
Yeah.
making the world a cleaner place
Yeah.
unless unless the energy the fuel that's creating that energy, okay, is also a renewable that's gonna make the world cleaner. And unfortunately, it's not.
No.
Okay, 90% of all the electricity out there is created by coal, natural gas, and diesel.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're burning fossil fuels. Okay,
These
we're
are these are
burning
the same
fossil
people.
fuels
These are the same people that don't understand where their food comes from and that just outlawed farms in what, the Netherlands or Denmark
in the
or
Netherlands. Yeah,
yeah.
the Netherlands is an
Yeah. They
absolute
just banned cows.
disaster.
They have,
Yeah.
they have no idea where their food comes from. So it's the same mindset.
Well, they're going through a major upheaval over there because of it, because it's
Yeah.
insane, and
Right.
they want to cut down nitrogen. Because nitrogen's bad. I mean, come on, there's so much nitrogen in this world, it's ridiculous that you'll never do anything about, and it's not
Necessary.
bad.
Yeah.
It's but anyway, so yeah, but the EV is just they're just storage units for energy, okay, that you're putting into vehicles, but the energy still has to be created,
Hmm.
and it's being created by fossil fuels, by
Right.
90% of it. So you're not changing it. In fact, the argument can be made you're actually making it worse because you're burning more energy than what you would
Well,
if you were to fill up your tank.
that and
You
the
know,
fact that they won't let us build any power plants in this country. Where's this power supposed to come from to charge your electric vehicles?
right, right, right. Well, now you're now you're when you start talking about the infrastructure that's needed for electric vehicles.
Hmm.
California just came out with their whole mandates for like up to 2035. That what is it? I mean 50. I mean I think 90% of all vehicles that are sold in 2035 have to be electric.
Yeah, another mandate.
You
So the
know,
so the vehicle manufacturers overcompensate by saying we're not going to manufacture 5% of our vehicles as gas powered. We'll just do them all electric.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, it adds a bunch
So
of cost.
right. So to do that for just for the infrastructure in California. So remember, this is California. This is the same place that is telling people that they can't charge their cars at night, or they can't charge their cars during the day, and because they'll have brownouts because they don't have enough electricity, particularly during the summer, right?
Well thought out.
And to please charge them at night or charge them. So, I mean, at a low time, whatever the case may be. I'm not from California, but I know that those uh, directives have come out from the power companies. I also know of trucking companies that wanted to buy. One trucking company in particular wanted to buy 25 triaxles that were all electric,
Hmm.
and the local manager of the grid said, no, you can't do that because we don't have enough, and the grid can't handle it for 25. Now, what's going to happen when they want 25,000?
Yeah,
You know,
200,000.
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is the grid can't handle it. We have the
Yeah,
transmission lines can't handle it.
right.
It's literally. I saw an estimate last week that for California to comply with this completely, they would have to be investing between 20 and $30 billion a year in their infrastructure between now and 2035. Just California. That's not the rest of the world, of the country.
They got millions of homeless people they can't take care of. I don't think they got the money for that.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of crazy, that this is the way we're headed. But in the meantime, you have alternative energy sources that are being developed every day that are pretty interesting. You have a lot of renewable diesel out there, which is really, I mean, it burns as clean can be,
Hmm.
and it's made from renewable sources. And I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's a great alternative. And we already have the infrastructure in place to distribute it. So
But
you just start selling that instead of regular diesel,
but going
if
back,
they can make it.
yeah,
Go ahead.
going back to what you said, the problem is they've already picked the winners. They've picked their pony, the one they're going to
Yeah.
get behind, the one they're going to put their money behind, and everybody else be damned, even if it's better. They've already made
Well,
the decision.
they've made the decision, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen only because it may not be possible. That's the biggest thing. It may not be possible. So, and I think from an infrastructure build out standpoint, that's the biggest hurdle I see. You know, but forget about I mean, when you talk about infrastructure, charging stations, you know, trucks have to go. Most trucks, you guys go 2 or 3 days without filling up. Sometimes,
Hmm.
can you think you can hold a charge for 2 or 3 days? And
Oh
heaven
no,
forbid something happens on the road and your charge goes out and you're stuck on the side of the road. It's not like they're going to come and fill you up and prime the tank and get going. You know,
yeah,
who knows how that works? No one has an answer for these things. You
yeah,
know,
no, it's you see these TikTok videos or whatever of them all the time behind a tow truck. They're constantly on the
yeah,
hook.
yeah.
All these unforeseen problems. I really don't know if they figured out what's going to happen in the middle of winter when it's 20 degrees below zero and you got the roads sprayed with this magnesium salt spray. How does electrical handle all that? Not well. I sure hope they
Well,
got good weather pack plugs on everything.
those batteries don't handle cold to begin with. Well,
No, you
you
lose
hear
so much
nothing but horror
capacity.
stories. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But even now, it's like you and I all hear the anecdotal stories about guy down the road from me has a bike shop. An EV van for deliveries and things like that. He's got one account that's 100 miles away. He can't go there and back on one charge.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he turned it back in. He turned it back in. He says, I can't use this. So, and right now people are buying. Another buddy of mine has a Lightning, and he bought it in Florida. He was driving it in Florida. He's an older guy. He works up here, up here in Connecticut. Has his business up here. So, but he was down there for the winter time, and he shipped it back up. He says, I'm not going to drive it back up here. I don't have time to sit around, stop 3 or 4 times, 5 times, and recharge on the way up. So he goes, I just shipped it back up. It's easier. But these are
It's
things that people don't think about.
it definitely changed the way people do business. I mean,
Hmm.
so if your batteries can't, like, say you have a local FedEx route, P&Ds, right around town. Um, what are you going to have? You're going to carry two vehicles in your fleet when you used to only need one because one of them will make it three-quarters of the way through the route, and then you have to go back and put it on the charger and take the other one.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's one scenario. Are people gonna,
Well,
like your friend there? He could have just as easily said to that customer, "Sorry, I can't service you anymore because I can't make it to your place of business."
right.
Would probably been the cheaper route to go. But man, you just start going down the possibilities of all the different scenarios, and it's just like, okay, maybe let's pump the brakes on this a little bit.
Yeah, it's. I think you're going to see some major things happen because it's gonna start to implode on itself at some point, um, because no one's gonna be able to keep up with these mandates. They're just not doable. And the other thing too is that the mandate to have to sell these vehicles and for people to have to buy these vehicles, um, that's one mandate. The next mandate, though, and remember they did that in 2008, 2010 with diesel particulate filters
Hmm.
and the whole 9 yards, right? And then the gliders just exploded, right?
Yeah.
And then finally they decided, oh my gosh, we can't do anything about these glider companies, so we're just going to make them all illegal. Remember?
Hmm.
So a couple years ago they said that's it, we're done. The glider era is over. You
Yeah.
know, so but you're going to see that same thing happen. With cars. with cars and the same trucks and everything else until they finally say, no, you have to buy EV. Now, will we get to that point? My guess, and it's just a guess, is that they're gonna come out with far superior alternative fuels, and whether they're hydrogen based or just renewable diesels or things like that, they're going to come out with better fuels and in a better situation than EVs. That's my guess. But having said that, EV has a huge head start.
Yeah.
And the forces, that be are behind them. So
yeah. Well, they make it to market. I've seen some of these. I mean, you got the opposing piston diesel engine. That's super efficient. It has no head on the motor.
Right.
It doesn't need one. It's super efficient. That's been around a while. They have this new rotary engine. It's kind of like that old Rotax engine that was in the Mazda
Right.
9, but it's slightly different for a diesel. You have all and you're seeing remarkable efficiencies out of these things and very promising. They're used in other parts of the world. They'll never make it to market here, like I said, because the decisions have been made. Nobody's going to put any funding behind a fossil fuel vehicle.
Yeah.
Because it's policy. We have this green
Right.
energy policy, and that's kind of the way it is, I think. And I don't know if that can be undone or slowed down. I don't know, but so we have this big gap between where we are now and then the utopia of being all electric. And there's a lot of space to fill there if you're looking to be environmentally conscious. And that's where I come to you and say, all right, how do we take existing vehicles like the existing trucks and vehicles that we have now and clean them up a little bit, and without adding more diesel particulate, more EGR, blah blah blah. And one of the things that comes to mind is your products, right off the bat. And that's kind of the topic today, is the environmental part of it. We've talked a lot about the other part of it. Have you had any interest from anybody that really matters, on this topic?
Yeah, we have, and it's just, and I get the feeling it's just beginning in this regard. We only carry two products. Okay, we carry our fuel additive, which is fuel ox with a combustion catalyst, and a few ancillary, versions of it. Our winter product with an antigel and so forth. But for the most part, I mean, our two biggest products on the fuel additive side are our fuel ox with combustion catalyst and our cold charge, which is a combination of the fuel ox with combustion catalyst and our freeze guard, which is a super high powered, antigel. Those are our two biggest things on the fuel additive side. And then what we have lubricants that we brought on about a year and a half ago or so now, which are all plant based, called Infinity Lubes. They're all plant based. But here's the thing: when I hear plant based, I hear cost twice as much and it's half as good, because that's the way it's always been. With anything green I've ever seen. Right? Our stuff is insane because it's a metal treatment as opposed to a lubricant. It acts as a lubricant, it performs as a lubricant, but what it really does is it treats the metal. And it does it in a way that the metal lasts longer, it doesn't corrode, it doesn't wear. Most lubricants look for a sustainability factor of about 20% is a good number for them. We're in the 90% range. It really, literally, we've done testing with Phalanx Labs in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
that show that we're literally 600 to 800% more protection to your metal than the conventional moly based lubricants that are out there. So we're really excited about Infinity since we brought it on. We're in the process now. We got approved by Ford Motor Company for their factories and production areas. But we're working with mining companies, truckers, you name it, tugboat companies, anyone everyone uses lubricants, and we offer a lubricant now that's 100% plant-based, toxin-free, and actually gets the metal to last longer and with a lot less breakdowns and a lot more sustainability. So those are the only two things we do. We do fuel additives and lubricants. That's it. All of our stuff is sustainability based. And what's interesting is that was always our focus before sustainability was a thing. You know, we never really thought about, oh my gosh, we need to be green, we need to be sustainable. You know, we need to worry about ESG and HS&E and all these other acronyms for for green stuff. We just were always, we wanted to bring out the best product that would give people better fuel efficiency, help their engines last longer, reduce emissions, all these things, because we just felt that's the way A, you should conduct your business, and B, that's the direction the world's headed. But now sustainability is a thing, and lo and behold, that's really what we do.
Let me try this. Tell me if you can see this on the screen. You sent me this video the other day, and I'd like you to explain what's happening here. Okay, can you see this?
I can.
Oh, let me skip that.
That's not me. All right, you want to hold it? All right. All right. So what this is a Ford Flat Rock assembly plant.
So this is Ford manufacturing plant.
Correct. And it's in the axle, area. I'm not exactly sure because my engineer Sean was there and he took the video. So what you're looking at is you have two chains here, one on the bottom, one on the top. The one on the bottom is running pretty well. The one on the top has a serious stutter, and also you can actually hear the noise that it's making as it's not moving.
Should I play it through and you can see what happens here?
I'll just show you what we're going to. Okay. So what we're going to do? They had just gotten an estimate to replace the top chain for $30,000. Okay, so this was the week before they had gotten this estimate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to treat the top chain. So
okay,
all right.
Let's see what happens here. I hope everybody can hear this. I don't know if they can or not. So what's that he's using there? The super spray, right?
That's the super spray. You can see the top one stuttering, the top one.
Yeah, it's kind of like jerky, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the one on the other side.
Now listen right here.
Oh, wow.
There it went. Boom. You see that?
It's not jerking anymore either.
Not jerking anymore, and you don't hear the sound. So that's on our YouTube. That's on our YouTube site. If you put in fuel locks in YouTube, you'll see that. But I watched it about 10 times in a row. It was like each time I was like, "Holy cow!" That's like, we know our stuff works, but to see it actually happen right there and hear it, it kind of blows you away,
So, okay, you talked about the metal here. Let me see if I can share. I'm not real good at sharing the screen here, but let me try this again, and maybe you can explain what is happening here. Okay, we'll try it. No, that's not it. Where is it at? Here we go. Okay. All right, we're gonna open this here. All right, can you see that?
I see the menu.
Okay. Let me see what I'm looking at here. Okay, let me find that. Oh, terrible. What window is that? Okay. Now can you see it?
Nope. I just see the menu there.
Okay, maybe this isn't going to work. I was bringing up the pictures here from the manual of the electron microscope. Pictures of the metal surfaces. Right. But I guess I can't get it to you.
So what you're yeah, I know what you're showing. So what Adam's attempting to show is a picture of a metal surface on a bearing, on a Timken bearing that is untreated, and then the second one next to it is a treated one, and it's with an electron microscope that's 1,000 times X. magnification. And what it shows is a much smoother. It shows the peaks and valleys and the roughness of the initial one, and then it shows that the second one shows how it's much smoother, and all the peaks and valleys are gone. And that's what we do. So what our product does makes it different. Is it actually the main products are liquid friction eliminator. That's what you put in the crankcases, gearboxes, hydraulics, 2 ounces per quart. It's an additive. If you look on our website, you'll see liquid friction eliminator. That's the main product. And then what we'll do is there it is right there.
Okay, here we go.
Pictures up. Yeah. So what we do is we blend the liquid friction eliminator into a grease for all our greases. It doesn't matter what grade grease it is. We can put it in, and then we also blend it into a spray. Okay. So if you look at the top picture with the before the Infinity Lube and the bottom, the one right below it, you can see how it had taken all those peaks and valleys of the asperities and just kind of wiped them down and made them smooth. So not only are they smoother now, but we've injected them with carbon, nitrogen, and a real lubricity into the metal itself. And then the metal gets much harder than it was before, about 20 Rockwell C points harder than it was prior to being treated. So not only is it smoother and has less abrasion and less friction involved, but it actually is harder too. So this goes down about between 5 and 10 microns, depending. And the more you use it, the deeper it goes. So the harder the metal gets.
If anybody wants to see any of these test results, just email me at diysemi@yahoo.com and I'll email them to you. It's not a problem. We got all kinds of independent documentation. So
right. So that's what makes it different, is that we actually treat the metal and make the metal harder. Same thing with bucket pins, anything you would normally use a number 2 lithium grease on. We do have other greases and if you make a request, we can pretty much blend into any grease you have. We're doing some robotic stuff for the automotive industry right now with a double aught grease. But we can pretty much work at any grease you have. The spray, which you saw on that chain, is probably the thing that people will use the most, because you literally can use that anywhere. I mean, we got guys using it on wire rope in the tugboat industry. They spray their wire rope once a month, and it penetrates in, and it treats the metal on the inside, so it lasts longer. I got pictures of wire rope that are 10 years old. The rope's 10 years old. It looks like it's a year old, but you can use overhead doors. I mean, spindles, anything you can spray it into. It'll work. Again, non-toxic, and it'll work absolutely anywhere. We should have our NHS food grade certification on that product hopefully within the next couple months. We're working on that as well for the other stuff too.
Yeah, we'll come back to comments a little bit. Everybody, I'm not ignoring you. We'd just like to get everything out. We'll do comments at the end if you don't mind, questions. So I got to ask you, because this is a point of contention with, I get emails, talk to different people back and forth. So I've tried to explain. You can help me explain this. Okay, so you have a product, right? You're trying to market. You want to do independent laboratory tests on it, right? Can you explain to me how that independent testing works? Because I constantly get comments, well, you didn't test it against Lucas. You didn't test it against Red and Tacky. You didn't test it against this. If you do that, you lose the value of independent tests, right? The point is they handle all that. They control all that, so you can't pick a winner, etc. Right? Can you explain to me the independent testing process?
Yeah, the way it usually works is that most tests are what they call ASTM based tests. American Society of Testing, and what they'll do, they have different tests that show different things. So if I do the test with my product, you can have the same test done with anything you want, and you can compare the two, right? Generally speaking, from my standpoint, there's a cost involved, right? So if I want to compare myself to other products, they're going to charge me for every product I send them. So meanwhile, the whole idea about it being an ASTM test is that's the same test for anybody. So anyone who wants to compare their stuff to our stuff is free to send their product in and have it tested, because they'll use the exact same formulation, and the answer will be apples to apples. Okay. Now, the question is, do I take on that cost of having my stuff compared against everything on the planet? And the answer is normally no, I don't. However, with the Phalanx test, I did send in 2 others. Okay, I sent in Valvoline Gray Moly and the Kluber NG52, $100 a tube. I just picked a big name, expensive grease. Both of them Moly based grease, right? And I had them do a fretting test, an ASTM-D 4112, I think it was something like that, 4012. But it's a fretting test where it actually measures how much wear comes off of the metal. And both of those products had about 15 milligrams or so that wore off. It's a 48-hour test. They run it for 48 hours. They measure, they weigh the bearing beforehand. They weigh it afterwards, and that's how they tell how much wore off. Okay, so both of them lost over 15 milligrams. Our super grease ended up losing about 1.6. I mean, it literally off the charts.
Right. You see that? I think I got it on the screen.
Let me put my glasses on here.
Oh boy.
Well, let's see, which one is that?
Where did it go?
There's the there's the fretting test.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're looking here.
There you go. Right.
Here's the chart.
All
right. So.
Yeah. So the green one is the
Valvoline.
Valvoline, right?
Red
the red
is
one is the Kluber, right?
And then the blue is the fuel ox. So this is mass loss over here. This vertical column is mass loss, and then the horizontal column is the upper pair of bearings or
I guess they do 2 bearings in a clip, correct?
Upper pair, lower pair, and then the mean. So if we look right here at the mean, that would be what the average of the 2.
Correct. Yep.
Over here, mass loss with the fuel ox is 1.6 milligrams.
Yep.
Kluber 15.2 milligrams, and the Valvoline 12.6 milligrams. So what? That's
and those from what I'm told
700%.
Yeah. So those from what I'm told are pretty good numbers. Okay. The comment that was made to me was, "Wow, that's almost nowhere at all." When I talked to I actually talked to the president at the NLGI, and when he saw these numbers, he said, "Wow, that's almost nowhere at all. That 1.6." And in fact, we have customers that we've been testing our stuff in the field for over 20 years, and we have customers in the field who haven't lost bearings in 20 years. So this
is the 4-ball wear test. This gets a little bit more complicated, so it's hard to read. But if somebody wants to see it, just email me. Let me see what else we got here.
We have the FCG wear test, which is way over my head, but it's
so this one hurt some people's feelings. Okay, when I posted this one as a community post. This is the Iowa. Can you see this?
I can. Yep.
Okay, it's the Iowa Central Community College dynamometer test. So they took a Kenworth T2000 with a C12 cat engine, 420 horse. Distance of test 100 miles. So you have the solid red line here is engine horsepower without. Now this is the oil product, the Infinity Lube. This is not the fuel treatment.
Right.
Is the
this
red
is
line
the liquid friction eliminator?
Yeah. Solid blue line. That's red line is horsepower. Blue line is torque without. They're both without.
Right.
Dashed red line is horsepower with Infinity Lube. Dashed blue line is engine torque with fuel ox Infinity Lube. All right. Now this is done on a dynamometer over the period of 100 miles, and all they did was add the friction eliminator into the oil. The baseline without the fuel ox Infinity Lube, horsepower 384, torque 1273. They put the Infinity Lube in, horsepower 400 horse, torque 1375. So you gain 16 horsepower and 102 foot-pounds of torque. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it is. It's this test was done before they, I brought out this product on. They brought a lot of the older tests they brought with them. But yeah, those are real numbers, and we hear that all the time too. By the way,
I gotta ask because outside looking in, that's a remarkable difference, 100 2 foot-pounds of torque. Okay. So can you tell me, like, the genesis of this test? How is this something did without asking you? Is this something you submitted your product for? Is this something you paid for? How did this happen?
You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I do know what I do remember hearing the story is that this is a group that was that had already had some experience with our products and liked them and wanted, and someone near that group wanted to see a real dyno test done, and they had it done.
Okay.
I don't know who paid for it, and again,
Is this something Howie would have done before?
exactly.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was probably done about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's
Oh, we have testing done all the time, and we get it. But I'm going to tell you something. If you look at our YouTube site, you know, we're constantly getting people sending us videos or just like little things, like down the street, the guy who the company called TransEdge that has they do all the Mack Volvo modification work in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and they got rid of all their cutting fluids, and all they use is the spray as a cutting fluid, because he's getting 4 times more out of his bits. He says, my bits last longer. I have less downtime with my guys. You know, bottom line is, it goes there. I've never seen anything that works like this. And we have a lot of guys that use that as a cutting fluid. It's a lubricant. It's a penetrant. You know, it definitely checks more boxes than anything I've ever seen.
back to the original kind of topic of this show here was, if you get it on your skin, use it as a moisturizer. It's completely non-toxic.
Rub it in. I've had more than a handful of guys tell me too that they got it on their skin and they didn't really pay much attention to it, and then they went somewhere and they realized it was a great mosquito repellent. And then I asked Howie about it. He goes, then I asked Howie about it. I said, Howie, is this stuff a mosquito repellent? And he goes, oh yeah, it's the best mosquito repellent in the world. Well, I'm not telling anybody that, but you're hearing it here. But that's what I've been told. I've been told. But besides all the real things it does, it actually, I guess, does repel mosquitoes. I don't know. I've never used it for that, but I'm being told it does. You know,
well,
and Neil's saying it's safe.
A lot of your, non-toxic bug repellents are made from essential oils, so I suppose it would make sense. They're all plant-based oils. That's what they are.
Yeah, there's no reason not to believe it. Certainly, you know, you won't see it described on the can that way though.
I have I know somebody that went to Tijuana for the weekend. He came back with some issues. If you put this on, would it solve those issues?
It's probably a little bit too late for that.
It's something you'd want to do beforehand.
That'd be interesting.
Well, I guess I never even said the web. It's fuelox.com is where you can see more about these products. Call and talk to them if you got questions. Good people. American company. That's a big deal. That's a big one for me.
American company, and everything's American made. All our components are American made. We even got rid of our bottles that we used to buy from China. So now we buy locally, and it costs us a little bit more, but you know what? Quality's better, and we're buying American. We're totally about that for sure.
Yep. And before anybody gets butthurt about it, yes, I do promote this product. I do promote this company because I haven't found a better one, and I've had fantastic results with it. So if you wouldn't mind, use my promo code DIY Sim. I get 15% off every order. And so here's what's become my new favorite product, right? Because I use them all. The doggone Coolox. So my 2012 Columbia Freightliner has 100,000 miles on it. And I think I replaced the AC compressor once somewhere along the way. And I treat it with the Coolox, and it about frees me out the damn truck. I just did a Kenworth. A buddy of mine had a condenser go out in his Kenworth. We did not replace the compressor. It's old. She's an oldie. And when we recharged it, I put the Coolox product in there. I was getting 34-degree air out of a 1997 or 1999, I think, Kenworth W9. My pickup truck is a 2005 Chevy, original, everything AC. It's never been touched. I know, because I would have been the one to do it. I put that in there, and it's like it's a new compressor again. We're putting out I think it was putting out 36-degree air. So, it's a damn fine product for air conditioning. I'll tell you that.
That's great. Yeah, the cool thing is you don't need much of it, right? So
No, I think I put like an ounce. I'm trying to put it in a reefer to test it out, but number one, I don't have anything to get it in there. Number two, I don't know how much to put in because it's like a 20 some pound capacity in there, and it's R404. Um, so I haven't yet quite figured that out, but I think I'm going to do my central air unit here for the house.
1 ounce per ton of
1 ounce.
of rating.
Okay.
So, and we sell 3-ounce bottles, and we sell 8-ounce bottles. So, and the 3-ounce bottles are usually enough for the home. But if you got a big home, you might need more.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a video on that and do a test because I saw one of your tests here that somebody did I think a compressor or something. It's in one of those tests that I put up, and measure the amperage draw for the compressor before and after.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm going to get me a gauge, and I'm going to measure the amperage. I'll go in the house, or somebody flip the switch on and off a few times, let her get warmed up, so it's an even test. Not starting with a cold compressor one time and then warm the other time. I'll get it operating temperature. See the amperage draw on startup and then running, and then I'll treat it, let it run for, I don't know, an hour or something to circulate it, and then do that startup
The best
and
thing-
running
the
amperage
be-
draw again.
The best thing you can do is besides having an amperage draw test, which you can do right at the unit, right? Easy peasy. You'll see that right away. But the best thing to do is also put a thermometer. Just take a thermometer and stick a thermometer in front of one of the outlets, in your house,
Mhm.
because it's not about necessarily how cold it is, although it is about how cold it is. But what makes your house cool is whatever that temperature is coming out has to run X amount of so long to get it to the temperature you want the house to be, right?
Right.
And if it's blowing it at 45 degrees, it's going to take longer than if it's blowing at 40 degrees. So the question is, put your temperature gauge on there, your thermometer, just right in front of it, and you'll see when you crank up your air conditioning unit. Go in there in about 10 minutes and and see what the thermometer says, right? And then treat it, and by the way, take all your amperage, numbers at the same time, and then treat it, and wait about an hour and go do it again, and that's where those two things will show you the difference.
Well, with the lower temperature, you're cooling faster, and then with the lower draw, you're saving power.
Exactly.
So, how much are you cutting your bill?
Right.
Let me. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going. Most people that tell us that they've used it are saving or cutting their bill between 20 and 40%.
Okay. And if you're in Florida or Louisiana, that's pretty substantial.
Absolutely.
Up here by me, yeah, it's not going to be as much. But hey, I like money, so.
Yeah.
Let me ask you though, and if you don't know, don't be afraid to say, because I don't know how one would figure this out or prove it. But okay, if you got an older compressor, right? Let's take my old Chevy for example, 2005 Chevy, 3/4 ton, the 6.0 gas in it, and it's the original compressor. All right, that compressor's old. It's worn. It's not going to do a very efficient job. So I treat it. Lubricating that compressor better is going to help, right? It's going to help that compressor do a more efficient job. But
right.
the difference in that, okay, I'm not taking semi trucks out. I'm just talking about the pickup. The difference in that was very substantial. I mean, like way more than I expected, right? I went from, I think before I measured the air before, I think I was putting out like 53-degree air. I didn't put any more Freon in it, just put the Coolox in it. And I get this result of, okay, now I'm putting out 35-degree air, 34-degree air just by putting a lubricant in there. I suspect possibly maybe there's something else happening besides just improved lubricity. Could we possibly be changing the thermodynamic properties of the Freon to where, okay, when it hits that expansion valve, it expands faster, or something like that? Has anybody been?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm certainly I'm not an expert in this field at all. But one of the things we're doing is there's laminate friction. Okay, that's liquid friction that takes place everywhere in that unit. And what we're doing is we're treating the metal at those points of friction. So we're making it less, so there's less friction. Okay.
Okay.
So if you get that, so if that fluid is moving much more easily with less friction, and it's taking less energy to do it, it's going to transfer that. It's going to transfer that heat much more quickly. So that's really what you're seeing, is you're seeing the heat transfer take place a lot faster, which is going to lower your temperatures. So that's my best explanation. Again, it's more of a layman's explanation, but that's the way it's been explained to me.
Remind me again, the gentleman in Michigan that I spoke to, what his name was, first name. He's the
Sean?
rep. Sean. Okay.
Yeah.
Spoke to
Yeah.
Sean. He's more technically knowledgeable about this than I would be. And if you don't know about this, let's not even talk about it. Or if you don't want to, because I'm not smart enough to talk about it. He mentioned something about an alloy. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, basically what he's probably talking about is that when we treat the metal, when the friction takes place in any kind of piece of machinery that has access to our lubricants, okay, anywhere there's friction, our product is actually attracted to the point of friction, the heat that's being created by the friction. Okay. Our product is attracted to it, as opposed to petroleum products, which run away from heat. We actually run to the heat. And by doing that, that friction creates an ionization effect. That's when we treat the metal. And we go into the metal, we treat it, we make it harder, we make it so it doesn't corrode and so forth. But what he's referring to is that when they've analyzed that metal, they've actually taken it and analyzed that 5 to 10 micron, thickness of new metal that we're creating. It's actually it's been compared to an alloy. In fact, it's been compared to the hardness of it has been actually compared to a meteorite. Something the hardness of a meteorite.
Yeah, I wasn't there. No way in hell I was going to say that.
Yeah. These are the analogies that I've heard told to me. But yeah, it's more of an alloy. It's a super hard alloy is what it is.
Okay. So. All right, and that I imagine is a lasting effect. I imagine if you stop using the product, you're going to go back to creating rough surfaces over a period of time. But I would imagine that surface should last for a period of time,
Correct.
Especially if you definitely continue to use that product. It's going to stay.
A lot of the guys that will use it. I'll give you a couple quick examples. We have coal mining companies that have been using it in their bucket pins and their loaders, for an example. And they used to grease their loaders twice a day, once at the beginning of every shift. Once they switched over to our super grease, after they figured out how long it would take, they went from twice a day to once every 2 weeks. Okay, because we would treat the metal, and it would maintain that hardness and that protection, much longer than you would normally. Now, for internal combustion engines, we've heard a lot of the guys that use it will treat their oil and then change it out, and they'll go 2 or 3 changes in between before they treat it again. And quite honestly, a lot of times their changes also their intervals are extended 2 or 3 times as well. So if you're changing your oil every 25,000 miles, our guys are telling us they're going 70, 80,000 miles before change. Now, I'm not recommending that. I'm just telling you, you'll know because you treat your oil, you change your oil, you analyze your oil, and you'll see where the micro metals are. It's the wear metals that kill the oil, right?
And with today's, let me interject though, with today's modern diesel engines, so this is complementary with oil. It's wear metals that kill it, but also soot. So
right.
You have on one hand the friction eliminator is going to help with the wear metals. On the other hand, if you have the catalyst, fuel ox catalyst, and you're reducing soot because of the way you've explained the inverse relationship between NOx and soot, and how there's only a couple products on the market that can handle both of those issues, yours being one of them, you're creating less soot and oxidation in the oil. So, therefore, along with the reduced wear metals, extend the drain intervals if you care to.
Right, correct. Absolutely. And that is the big, with our fuel ox with combustion catalyst. And the combustion catalyst is what separates us from everything else out there, and allows us to actually, diesel will combust around 900 degrees normally. We'll get to combust around 600 degrees. By doing that, you end up with a more thorough burn, more power, better fuel efficiency. And in the meantime, because it's more thorough burn, it's a cleaner burn.
Less
So we
NOx
cut
and soot.
And because it starts at a lower temperature and that less NOx, and because it's a more thorough burn, less soot.
Right.
And
So to further explain that, as you've explained it before, so in today's diesel engines, two big issues: NOx and soot. Okay, NOx is handled by your after treatment system largely, and soot by higher temperatures. So if you have less of one, you have more of the other, and more of one, you have less of the other. Right.
correct.
So
Normally,
if you can,
correct.
you want high temperature to keep from having soot, but then you want, also to keep from having NOx. So to get the product to combust more thoroughly at a lower temperature, because of the more thorough combustion, that's less soot. Correct? Let me know if I'm not getting this right.
Nope, you're right.
And then because of the lower temperature, as a byproduct, less NOx. So it's easier on your after treatment system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of our guys, we've seen data that have shown that we lower the DEF usage by up to 20%. So
my drivers have experienced that. Yes, I've heard that too.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a nice added bonus that no one knew about before they started using DEF, But in the meantime, so by having a more thorough burn and reducing the soot by over 50%, we've had reports from engineering firms telling us that it's as high as 70%. Okay. But we're comfortable saying over 50%. But by reducing the soot by over 50%, that's 50% less strain on your diesel particulate filters,
right,
your EGR coolers, So everything stays cleaner longer. Regens are cut in half, it's a huge plus from a maintenance side. In fact, our big fleet guys that use our products, that is their number one benefit that they talk about is the fact they're not seeing stuff in between PMs having to do with the emission systems.
Yeah, because I've seen you got a lot of municipalities, school buses, dump trucks, garbage trucks that are doing a lot of drive 5 miles, stop, drive 5. They never get up to speed. They never build heat. So their emission system's going through hell with these, temperatures here.
Those are the low hanging fruit of our business. There's no doubt about it. But in the meantime, I mean, I'll mention Dutch Valley Foods. They're a regional northern or eastern half of the United States distributor of food goods. And they're big. They just called me up there today and said, "I got to tell you something. We're just now starting to replace our diesel particulate filters." Now they've been using our products for almost 5 years. Okay, and what they're seeing is that they're replacing their DPFs now at around 700,000 miles. So they're thrilled, that they've gotten so far without having to replace them. And in the meantime, they're also like, because we've reduced anything having to do with emissions, any of our maintenance having to do with emissions dramatically since using our product.
I can say we've experienced similar results.
Yeah, they get 3 to 6% better fuel efficiency on depending on which unit they're looking at. So that's substantial for the trucking, because you guys literally are driving, I think, some of the most efficient engines on the planet, because you're out there you're going 60 to 70 miles an hour for long periods of time. Most of you guys are, right? And you don't build up a lot of carbon in the engine. The engine's always moving, and and you're taking care of it, and they're pretty efficient. They really are. You don't have a ton of idling time. At least most of you guys don't. Some of you guys with shorter delivery routes, perhaps, but the guys who are out there hauling on the roads all day, those are pretty efficient machines.
Yeah, and to that point, if we go back, 4 or 5 years now, I started using the product before I contacted you to, hey, let's talk about this. What kind of brought me in is, I come from a farming background where things are dirty and crappy, and equipment doesn't, takes quite a beating. I've seen in your videos that you're in, you cut your teeth in the marine business. the mining industry, heavy construction equipment. If we're being honest here, yeah, trucking, that stuff, that equipment takes a beating. Not nearly the beating it's taking in a mining operation. I'm sorry, or uh, the barge operation. You don't
Sure.
have nearly the water in your fuel as you do in the marine industry. So your water dispersant in the marine industry, if you can handle the amount of moisture in that, long haul trucking is a cakewalk. In the mining industry, if you're improving the lives of bucket pins and bearings and stuff, the kind of beating that stuff takes, trucking is a no brainer. A U joint is no big deal compared to a bucket pin and a giant cat loader. I mean, come on. So the those are some harsh environments, and we've started using them on the farm for different stuff, and we've had good results. I can't show a lot of that. They don't want me taking video on the farm because of PETA and stuff like that. So I can do a little bit, but very harsh environments, and that's the marine thing. The water and the fuel in the marine industry is a kind of a big deal. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the water brings all kinds of problems, including bacteria in the fuel, and and just you can't combust it. I mean, it's bad, terrible for your engine. But it's bad stuff, though. The water, and you're right. The marine industry has its inordinate amount of that.
Okay. So here's a topic. Like, I don't know if you want to attack it, but we're talking very vague generalities, right? I don't like to talk bad about other people's products. I don't speak for them. It's nothing. I want to promote a product based on its merits. But just in general terms, can we talk about a few of the problems with some other products, with not naming products, but maybe even just a problem with some of the ingredients that you might find in some other products, just random, right? Like, so for instance, there's a few products, oil additives, that are mostly chlorinated paraffins, right? Are you familiar with that?
Sure.
Okay, and chlorinated paraffins under extreme heat turn to what? Hydrochloric acid,
Yep.
which is highly corrosive. It's a good lubricant. So if you put a product with chlorinated paraffins on the Timken bearing test or another test like it, it's going to perform well for a short period of time. If you
Hmm.
can sustain that test for a period of time, there's going to be some problems with those chlorinated paraffins. They
Well, I
break
mean,
down.
I think a lot of chlorinated paraffins have been outlawed in certain things. I
Hmm.
get you can still get them in a few products, but for the most part, like for a fuel additive, so you can't use them. You're not allowed to use them. Lubricants, you can use them in lubricants, but
Hmm.
they're highly toxic, highly toxic. Okay, like you said about the hydrochloric acid, but they're just alone they're very toxic.
Yeah.
Like we'll never touch them. In fact, you have a lot of companies and organizations out there that will not allow you to use them. Okay, because of it, because they're so toxic. Um, but they'll also, they'll give you some pretty good protection on your metal for a period of time until, like you said, until they wear off. And when they wear off, they turn into bad things. And it's just not a good chemical to work with. You know, and it
And
is, and it doesn't come close to performing like we do, but it is one of the better performing stuff things you can use, but the downside is much bigger than the upside in my estimation.
right, and a lot of fuel products, to get the extra cetane, we're talking about using products like methyl ether, right? And
Methyl
ethyl
ether, glycol ether.
glycol ether,
Yep.
which
Yeah, those
are
are your cetane improvers. Okay. And we don't care about cetane improvers because we go right to the combustion and we improve the combustion. So
right.
cetane improvers will help with the combustion because they improve your cetane, but we go right to the combustion source itself and improve it way beyond any cetane improver ever can.
Right.
So, and the glycol ethers of the world, the methyl ethers, they all attract water, um,
Hmm.
and they're not. And frankly, they're not the greatest things for your engine.
Alcohols are kind of like drying products too, right?
Exactly.
It's
And
cutting
anything,
lubricity.
yep, anything with an OL on the end of it is usually is some sort of alcohol derivative.
Okay.
So,
Um, anything else off the top of your head to be concerned about? What about anything about titanium added into oil, like these liquid titanium? I've never been quite able to figure that one out, like the benefit of it.
no, I don't, I've heard of it, but I've never really seen it. I've really, they come out with all these things that are liquid this, liquid that, all kinds of, catchy. Oh, titanium's hard, so that must be great, kind of thing. It's most of them we view as, as marketing strategies. You know, nothing really more than that. We've
Mhm.
never come across anything that really substantially, does anything close to what our lubricants do. So we test everything though. So if I get some, we'll test it and we'll take a look at it and see what it does. But by and large, yeah, I mean most of those newfangled kind of things tend to be more marketing than anything else.
Okay. Um, anything new happening in your world with the company or products or
Well,
anything we
yeah,
get the inside scoop on?
there's there's a there's always new stuff going on, but we're starting to see a lot of interest in our fuel additive in particular, coming out of, believe it or not, the whole Paris Accord, um, you know, the whole worldwide movement, to for climate change and so forth. And because they're realizing that we're the only guys out there, or one of the very few guys out there that actually have an impact on your emissions. So that we've garnered a ton of interest in that. We're down the road quite a ways with a couple countries that want to treat their fuel with our product, and we continue to get companies coming to us that fuel distributors. A lot of fuel distributors now are starting to come to us because they want to offer this to their clients, because of the fact that we get better fuel efficiency, reduce emissions, and reduce regens and so forth. And and we keep the fuel clean. So it's pretty cool. We have a lot going on there, and then on the lubricant side, that's every day is a new thing for that, because we're starting. Let's face it, when you have a product that actually outperforms everything out there for the most part, and we haven't seen anything it doesn't. That's why I say for the most part, but I haven't tested everything either. But it outperforms everything out there, and it's safe for the environment at the same time. I mean, that's just a tremendous win-win. And our only real challenge with Infinity Lubes is getting the word out. You know, and that's every day. It's a new thing for us, Adam.
Out of curiosity, because in my business, I find myself talking to people I didn't used to and having conversations that I never did before. Just out of curiosity, when you're talking to somebody in a different country, maybe a foreign government, maybe a foreign corporation, a very large, right, and they have interest in your product, and then I don't know how many conversations you've had with somebody on that level here in the United States, maybe a governmental level. How are the conversations different when you're talking to somebody on the other side of the world, maybe with not having the preconceived notions or agenda or politics of their counterpart here in the United States? I'm very curious about that.
It's interesting. It's not that different. There's just there's a When I'm talking to somebody on the other side of the world, generally speaking, they've come to me. Okay, as opposed to here, a lot of times we reach out to them because we're selling here in the United States.
Hmm.
So it's always different when someone comes to you than when you go to them. So they're always, if they're coming to you, it's because they want answers. They have problems, and they want answers, and they think that maybe you have the answers. So immediately they're going to have a totally different mindset than if you come to someone here and you try to tell them you have a problem and we can solve it, when they're not really 100% sure they have the problem to begin with. See what I'm saying?
So here
So
you got to fight tooth and nail to get your product out there.
Yeah,
and
it's a
kind
little
of
harder.
fight against the system a little bit, and then on the other hand, you have people coming to you that
And I'm fighting against the conventional wisdom, which conventional thought with fuel additives in particular is that, the snake oil and all that kind of stuff. And people, the people that are staying up to date with technology, they get it. Your fuel has fuel additives in it when it leaves the refinery. Okay.
yes,
The concept of fuel additives is just so overreaching. It's everywhere.
well, it's all marketing.
It's all marketing, but a lot of things, your engine, your fuel won't perform without certain additives. You have to just simple things like lubricity. They have to put lubricity in, and conductivity. The lubricity and conductivity they treat. They literally treat as it leaves the refinery.
Once they took the
Because they
sulfur out,
know it.
then yeah,
Yeah, well, in that process of taking the sulfur removes the lubricity, so they have to replace it. So there's an additive right there. But there's other additives they put in. Nobody has a problem putting in additives for the wintertime, right?
Mhm.
I mean, antigel is an additive. Okay, what does it do? It keeps you from gelling up, right? It's great. I mean, but it's an additive. So why don't you have additives for other things? And now with all the emissions issues that we have to deal with, why wouldn't you have an additive that maybe helps you combust your fuel more efficiently, so you don't have the emissions. These are just normal things. This is not snake oil. This is not hocus pocus. It's proven. It's been around, and we got reams and reams of data that show this is a real product that can help people.
yeah. The issues with today's engines, it's these after treatment systems. So the engines are, they're better. The Detroit DD15 is a very good engine.
Yep.
It's you could make the argument, okay, DD15 or Series 60, but you take this DD15 engine in a truck and you run it to 800, 900,000 miles, and pretty soon, okay, I'm looking at an overhaul. But nowadays, you're looking at the truck and saying, am I going to overhaul this thing because I can put $45,000 into the overhaul, but I still got this $40,000 emission system here that's got almost 1,000,000 miles on it. You know, that's a tough decision. It's a tough
Yeah.
decision because most of the problems come with these emission systems. So, I mean, we need to put as much care into that emission system as what we would into an engine nowadays, because they're hard to fix. You can go in and put a truck into a shop and spend $15,000 on a one box for a Freightliner and come out no better off than when you went in with
Right.
all the sensors and programming in these things. It's insane. So, we got to give the kind of care to the emission system is what it needs.
And you know what? 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was still kind of a new thing,
Mhm.
and now it's standard. It's like if you don't give that care and that attention to it, you're ignoring a big part of the issue. It's all part and parcel of taking care of your truck. You can't forget about it. You can't say, oh, it's a passing thing. No, it's here. It ain't going anywhere either.
Right. Right. Well, let me jump on a few questions here.
Sure.
Got a lot of people being they're trolling me a little bit here, making funny comments, so I'll try to skip over some of that. Let's see here. JH says check out the book Cobalt Red. Yeah, it's all about the cobalt mines. Are we still burying? Are we still burying windmill blades? We bury windmill blades? Do you know anything about this?
Oh, we've been burying windmill blades for a while.
What?
Supposedly, I read something recently that's, again, another company who's specializing in how to get rid of things. And then I read about a company that they're specializing in how to recondition or recycle windmill blades. I don't know. Are they doing it? I don't know if they are or not. But
Why do we
as
need
far
to
as I
bury
know,
these things?
because they can't. There's no way to easily destroy them.
Can't you just grind them up and
You would
recycle?
think, but I don't know.
Really? I had no idea we were burying windmill blades. That can't be. That's got to be toxic.
No, it's not. None of it's good. You can't get rid of the photovoltaic cells for sun, the engine, the stuff we get from the sun. It's like it's crazy.
By the way, the video you guys posted of the guy on the windmill farm talking about their yaw bearings and stuff.
Yep.
We need to know more about that. Like, is there
All
any way
right.
you can follow up or more information on that? Because that is the freaking, you're talking
All right. So
big money.
John Fellhauer owns a company called Power Grid Partners, and he's up in Sandusky, Ohio.
Okay.
He maintains, I think, around 300, maybe more now, wind turbines between that area, that Ohio, Indiana area, Alaska, and Hawaii. Okay. And I've been to his office. I've seen his. I mean, he literally has everything. It's really cool because he has every single windmill on his laptop, and he can tell you everything about all of them at any given time.
Like temperatures and everything.
Everything, the temperatures, the wind, the strains, the stresses, the amount of anything that's happening in there electronically that would give him an idea of what's happened, might have an issue, he knows about. So, but what he does, he's been treating all of his turbines with our lubricants, primarily the super grease, for about 10 years now. And what he has seen, if you guys haven't seen that video, it's about a 15-minute video, but it's really good. And it's on our YouTube site. Go to YouTube, put Fuel Ox in. There's a whole bunch of web stuff there. But what he says, some of the things that we took out of it that are pretty interesting is that by putting our grease on the turbines, they actually will, instead of turning at about 15 miles an hour is what they usually need for wind to get them to turn, they turn at about 5 miles an hour with our product. They will continue to turn in about a 3 mile an hour wind versus about a 10 mile an hour, 8 to 10 mile an hour wind you need once a conventional turbine begins to turn. Okay. So, I mean, just that alone, makes them so much more efficient.
Well,
But in the meantime,
I was fascinated by the maintenance, the dollar amounts you're talking about millions of dollars in maintenance savings.
Yeah,
Millions.
he says he had. Well, and you know what? And he's a guy. He's my age, roughly. Around 60, and he's like, the last thing I want to do is climb up those things anymore. I'm tired of climbing up those things.
Yeah.
And he goes, you got to go up there in the middle of the night in a storm. He goes, it's bad enough to climb up there in the middle of the day when it's not stormy, but you go in the middle of the night in a storm, it's just miserable and it's scary. It's pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, I don't want to do that anymore. So, but what he sees is that, yeah, he's cut his maintenance schedules down dramatically since he started using our grease. So he goes, I hardly have to go up there at all anymore. I mean, literally, he's cut it down like 80% or something like that.
Yeah,
so
when you're talking about somebody in a situation where the maintenance part is millions of dollars, because I imagine those bearings go out. What does it cost to pull that windmill apart, or do you just condemn it?
Oh God,
and knock it down?
They pull out the big cranes and they go up there and they replace things and they fix them and they put them back together and no, they'll do it,
Yeah.
But it costs a fortune.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Good intentions often lead to horrible execution. That's for sure. Let me see here. Electric trucks will fill the junkyards faster than a warehouse full of Edsels. That is true. That is true. Let's see here. Buck says, seeing this reminds me of back when I was a milk route man. We had chain belts in the warehouse floor that we dragged stacks of crates on that fed out. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Actually, there's a company that uses a lot of our products called McGinnis Barge, and they pull the barges up out of the Ohio River, and then once they get up top, they sit on these trolleys, and they have a chain just like that, a much larger chain. The chain itself is about that wide, and it goes for hundreds of yards, and it drags the barges through these massive buildings where they sandblast them, repair them, repaint them, everything. They come out the other side and down the hill into the Ohio River. But they have the chains just like he's talking about, only they're huge, and they treat those chains with our spray. And it's really fascinating. The chains last literally 5-10 times longer because of that.
Yeah, Corey Ray says, how does it compare to motor coat? Well, that's a situation kind of like we were talking about. I encourage people to do your own testing. Come up with a way to test it for yourself and put it through the ringer and do your own comparison.
Well, I will tell you this: the guy who invented motor coat, he and I are friends, and he sold the company 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And the one thing he told me, and I won't go into a lot of detail, he goes, but the current motor coat isn't what I sold him. It's not the same thing.
Most of the products on the market today aren't. So I've talked to a few different people in this position of once you come up with a product for the trucking industry that's gaining some traction and been powerful, one of the first companies to come at you is Barjan. You've seen in the truck stops all these products by the Barjan company trying to buy you out. I know of two people in particular that they've been approached. So you're going to get bought out, and your product is going to be degraded and cheapened.
Right.
It's rarely what it used to be.
Well, you remember the Slick 50, right?
Yeah.
The story about Slick 50 was the guy sold it, and they changed it so much that he took it back. And you can't, from what I understand, you cannot get the original anything close to the original Slick 50 anywhere anymore because of that.
Wow. No, I did not know that.
It's a little bit of lubricant lore, you know.
Buck Brown says this seems like it'd be excellent for my recent in frame I just had done. I would say on the recent in frames and the brand new motors, don't put the Infinity Lube in the crankcase until that thing has gone through its break-in period. You want to get those rings to seat, the piston rings to seat, and you advance the lubrication, and you're going to have a problem doing that. Go ahead, feel free to go ahead and use the fuel additive, but in anything brand new, just put it through your break-in period before you start doing that. Shopfee says I put fuel ox in my morning coffee. Ooh, I bet you got a real soft and well lubricated throat.
Oh man, please don't do
that. Buck Brown. So I'd suggest contacting places like Pittsburgh Power to maybe create a partnership for this product. Well, there's possibly a little bit of history there. You don't have to talk about it, but
No,
one thing I would say is behind the scenes, everybody in this industry knows each other behind the scenes.
They'll, you know what? They're good guys. The good guys at Pittsburgh Power, and they have a hell of a business. They really do. They actually, we had spoken many years ago, and they had already created some sort of relationship with another fuel additive company, and that's what they sell. They sell another product. It's a pretty good product, you know. We don't think it compares to ours, you know, for value by any means. But at the same time, you know, it's a good product, and you know those guys, they're good guys. So, you know,
they do good things in the industry. It goes back to the thing of, a person with integrity. You don't talk negatively about anybody's products. You speak on the merits of your own product. And
absolutely, 100%.
If you believe your product is better, you're not afraid to, go head to head. And everybody's got to make their own choice. So if you believe something is working for you, and you're loyal to it, then good for you. But we only speak on the merits of what we promote. Tolga says local products always have more advantages than foreign ones. They can be more expensive because of quality difference, but you can always reach out to them if you're going to see any issue to fix. Well, anybody in the trucking industry knows that is an issue right now. Whenever you call somebody for whether it's your ELD or a broker or half the services you're being provided in the trucking industry, you're speaking to somebody in probably Pakistan or India or wherever else, and the frustrations, and you can't hold them accountable. And these guys you're in New Jersey still, right? Or did you move?
Yep. No, we're in New Jersey.
No. So you call in, you speak to somebody, this is chances are you might be speaking to, a member of Rand's family business.
There's a very good chance of that. Probably about a 60% chance.
Yeah. Corey says $25 for one tube of grease. Corey, there's discounts available all over the place. Selfishly, I suggest you use mine, DIY Semi. Get 20 or 15% off every order. But there's also the Truckers. Was it Truckers package or Truckers? What's it called? Rand, the Truckers bundle or whatever.
Yeah, we have a couple bundles there for you guys. You get some grease, you get some spray, you get some fuel additive, all bundled together. You get a discount there. Then
substantially cheaper.
Substantially cheaper. And then you tack on the 15% discount with Adam, and it's even cheaper. So
yeah, yep. Give it a try. Cassius King says good products aren't cheap and cheap products aren't good. I learned that from a lot lizard. Okay. Is that friction eliminator safe to put in my 2002 Ford F-150? Don't see why
Absolutely.
not. Don't see why not.
Absolutely.
There you go, Tolga. Tolga for the win, throwing out the promo code. There we go. DIY semi. It's the 2 of 3 rule. Fast, good, and cheap. You can only choose 2.
That's a great rule. I love
Yeah.
that rule. Yeah.
I'm not sure it applies in the back row of the truck stop though, with Cassius King's lot lizard. So
Oh God.
How much friction eliminator for 10 gallons of oil, and how often do you treat? Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it, right? You can do what I do is I use 1 ounce per gallon. So I'll use, what is that, four bottles every time I change oil, or what?
That's 1 ounce.
Yeah,
it's 1 ounce.
1 ounce per quart. Sorry,
1 ounce per quart. Yeah. So that's 4. That's 4 of those. 4 of those.
And then another way, label instructions say you use 2 ounces per quart, and then you don't necessarily use it every other oil change. I do the 1 ounce per quart and then use it every time. That's what I do in all my trucks, and they have it in the rear differentials. They have it in the transmission. I put an ounce in my coolant. I use the Coolox in the AC, and I put an ounce in the power steering, and I use the grease. So it's literally in everything in my truck except for the washer fluid. Did I miss anything?
Here's what we usually suggest is that you put 2 ounces per quart in about 2/3 of the way through your cycle. Okay. So about 2/3 of the way through your cycle, you put 2 ounces per quart in. Run the last third of your cycle. Change your oil. Okay. Then when you refill your oil, okay, and obviously you're gonna analyze what comes out of there, because what's going to happen when we initially put our product in there, we're going to take a lot of those little burrs, those microscopic burrs of metal that are in your engine, and a lot of them are going to come off. Okay, we're going to have a lot of those come off when we treat your engine.
That's part of that process we looked at on the electron microscope with that smoothing process, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so you want to do that, like I said, do it about 2/3 of the way through. That way you get rid of all that stuff. And then when you refill your oil, then you can put in 1 or 2 ounces per quart then, and run your full cycle. Maybe monitor it, when you get close to the end of the cycle, and see if you want to go a little bit longer. That's totally your choice. But after you do that, then you can go every, second, third, fourth fill up, or oil change rather, and you'll see after you do it a few times, what works best for you. But you definitely do not need to treat it every single time you change your oil. And you should be able to extend your intervals as well.
Okay. Well, unless you're wanting to, sell more product using my code, then we recommend they do it every oil change.
Every single oil change.
I have selfish reasons here.
I got to tell you a funny story. Howie, who's my partner and the gentleman who actually invented this, he just had an accident with it, so he doesn't have it anymore. But he had a 2009 GMC, and he had 390,000 miles on it, I think it was, and he had run that completely for the last. I think he after he broke it in, he started putting the LFE in and running the truck itself on just LFE. Now he could afford to do that because
that's pricey.
But he could afford to do that because he was making it, right?
Right.
But he ran that on just LFE for 370,000 miles or something like that.
Wow.
And it ran like a top, and a gas engine.
So you don't necessarily need a carrier oil.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's not thick like some other additives, that need a carrier, but I would think
he had no carrier oil. And right now, actually, matter of fact, he just got totally lucky to live through it. He got rear-ended on an interstate. Guy hit him at 80 miles an hour.
Oof.
And fortunately, he had his GM was all steel bodied, and he walked away from it. He's got some issues, but he's gonna be okay. But he was actually running at that point, because about 6 months ago he switched over, and he's developing a water-based a water-based oil. So no petroleum products at all. And that's what, for the last 6 months, that's what he's been running.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
I'd like to
so
know
we
about
have
that.
we have that. We have a lot of things on the drawing board. You know, that's just one of them. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. That's really interesting.
Okay. Howie's an interesting guy.
Yeah, he is. He's
Howie is something. Buck Brown says, I tried it in my 74 Beetle and my 22 Indian and my John Deere lawnmower. Yeah, I got it in my mowers, all my vehicles. Yeah. Snorlight says, I asked because I acquired a free bottle here at my house. It was abandoned. It ain't abandoned. I'll be there to pick it up one of these days. Corey was asking, he's got an older cat, 2WS cat, changes the oil every 10 to 12,000 miles. Yeah, you should, I mean, try it out. You should be able to extend that. You should be able to be going longer. After, you know, get it in there that first time, do the, it's also going to clean things up a little bit. So, and then monitor your samples. Shopfee says, my DEF usage went down 11%. I put 1 ounce per 50 gallons of diesel. Yeah, I also, myself and one of my drivers treat our fuel a little bit stronger. It's an ounce for the catalyst, it's an ounce per 80 gallons. I do more along the lines of an ounce per 50 gallons. My truck really likes it. It's a Detroit 60 series, pre-emissions, pre-EGR, everything. It responds really well to it. It also responded very well to the LFE. Much, you know, it's like somebody balanced out the engine, you know. So, you know, use it. You'll know what your truck likes. Dirty Diesel says, using the Fuel Ox products myself and promoting them on my channel. Yeah, I saw that, Dirty Diesel. I don't know. I might have to eliminate the competition here and just let me see if I can bounce you right out of here. Just kidding. Yeah, it's definitely. The more people, it needs to be out there more. Eventually, you'll see it in different truck stops. I've seen it in a few truck stops, couple smaller places.
You know, you know what's funny is we're not in very many, and they're all like kind of weird, kind of how it happened kind of thing. You know, we met some guys at some shows and stuff, and they said, oh, they want to carry it in their truck stop. Actually, there's a truck stop in North Carolina. It's a big one, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name.
It's Kenly, isn't it? But Kenly, North Carolina?
It is Kenly, correct. And I stopped there on the way back from Florida one time at like 3 a.m. And I went in to get gas, and I went in the thing and I said, who handles your merchandising here? And I just dropped off some information because I was there. Right. And literally these guys have been carrying my stuff ever since. It was like 5 years ago, you know, so they're great customers. But we, you know, that's something we just don't do right now. The retail side, we will eventually get into that. I'm probably a year or two away, you know, because it does change the dynamic of how we produce here, you know. But you know, we're not pushing it hard. I'd have to hire some more people, which, you know, is it's in the works, but it's not something that's going to happen right away. Yeah, because it really takes a whole different mindset, you know.
Yeah. Sean says corner wheels in the gutter chain takes a beating. Yeah. So in the barn, you know, behind the cows, you have a gutter that all the manure and urine falls into, and it goes around the barn, and it's got to go through these curves. You have curves and reverse curves, and those wheels in those curves take a real pounding, much less the fact that they're soaked in acidic urine and manure all day. Really doesn't help. So we started greasing ours with the super grease, and then also they quiet down. They chirp real loud, these gutters. Also in a feed cart, we have electric feed carts. Those bearings are constantly immersed in silage. It's a very, very dirty environment. And then there's a thing called the TMR mixer that all the feed comes into out of the silo, and then you can mix in your grain or whatever you want to mix a ration in. And the bearings in that was the number one problem on the farm we were having, were these bearings in this TMR mixer. Constantly going out. They're real pain in the butt to grease. They're hard to get to. Started greasing them with the super grease, and the grease intervals have just gone, not documented it to measure it, but we don't grease it even close to what we used to. So it's been a big improvement there.
Which is also what justifies the price too. You know,
yeah.
You're using a lot less grease, but you're also saving your equipment dramatically. You know, A quick anecdote about that. Michigan Seamless Tubing in Detroit they make pipe, and they were having problems with their draft table, taking the pipe right out of the oven, where it was about 1,200 degrees right at the mouth, and the bearings that they had were getting up to about 600 degrees. They were losing bearings using their conventional grease. That they were losing the bearings once every 3 or 4 weeks. They had to replace the bearings, and they started using our super grease. And what they found was that, first of all, after 9 months, they hadn't lost a bearing. And the guy actually sent me, the GM there sent me a savings where he had figured using five tubes of our grease during that time frame, or something like that, 5 or 10 tubes. It was not very much, but he found that his savings were $109,000 in 9 months. Now it's been about a year and a half, and they still haven't lost him.
So you can hear all this stuff from me, and it can mean something or not mean something. But when you're talking to somebody like the guy with the windmills, or this guy that's saving $100,000 on bearings, listen to them. If you don't want to hear it from me, listen to them, because that's real money. That's real money. So Tolga says, liquid titanium, is that a type of titanium dioxide, like whatever they use in the wall paints? I don't know. It's the brand, the particular oil I was thinking of that does that is Kendall. Kendall oil claims to have liquid titanium. I know little to nothing about it. And then you have ones that claim Molly and this and that. Not a fan of the Molly oils.
Well, the thing to remember about all those metals that are in there, they're metals.
They're solid particles. They're suspended. They're suspended they're in suspension, but they're not liquid.
Right, and they're not. And they, while they protect the metal somewhat, they also are an abrasive.
Yes.
So they're a slow abrasive that wear your metal down. Even though they're protecting it, they're still wearing your metal down because they're hard metals. They're very hard metals, and they're also extremely toxic.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is they're an abrasive. They really are.
Yeah. And along those same lines, so I hear a lot of a particular product of I like this product because it sticks to my cylinder walls and stays in my cylinder, so I don't have any dry starts, or it sticks. Your oil should never stick to anything. Okay, oil should flow. It should be clean. And if you have a product that's sticking to your cylinder walls, so you don't have dry startup, guess what? You're going to get carbon packing. If it's not selective on what it's going to stick to. It's going to stick in your bearings. It's going to stick in your head. It's going to stick in oil passages. It's just going to stick everywhere. And you're going to get carbon packing like you would not believe. And that is going to destroy your engine over time.
And drag.
And drag, yes. Inefficiency and drag. And just all kinds of contamination. Oil should flow. It should move where it needs to move, when it needs to move there. Engines are designed for that. They're not designed to, keep a gallon of oil in your head every time you shut the trailer. Sure, you're going to have some oil pooling that's not going to drain in different places. That's carbon packing is how, that's how that happens a lot of times. But yeah, that's not a positive. So when you hear that, it's not a benefit. It's a detriment. Chief Ray Heller says, I have a Packard MX-13. They're having problems with the injectors on these motors. I've been using a different brand to control asphaltenes, hoping to not have injector issues. Will Fuel-Ox help? Well, I believe it will, and you speak to that. But you also have a separate asphaltene product, correct?
That's correct. Yes, we do.
Okay, but
we have a product that'll actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, we have a product that'll keep the asphaltenes from forming, as well as break them down once they do form.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely there's some products on there we haven't really talked about. There's a product for your home heating oil. There's one specifically designed for marine use. So we mostly just here talk about the ones for trucking because, let's face it, the people in here are truckers. So that check out the website. There's, in addition to the antigel, there's a heat bomb. that would be like your diesel 911s for. So if you should you gel up for some reason, that's the product that will ungel you. So definitely there's a lot of products on there we haven't talked about also.
Well, one of the cool products for these guys, for the over the road guys, is the OTR product, the 3-ounce bottle.
Yeah, I use
the
that.
3-ounce bottle treats 120 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
So as opposed to a quart bottle that you're used to buying in the stores, forget about the fact it's our product in it, which is far superior. but it's also only a 3-ounce bottle, so it's really easy to carry a handful of them around easily without taking up a lot of space.
Yeah. I got a quick follow up on something. The last time we talked, you mentioned something that just came to mind, and I want to follow up on it. People have asked me to do this test. I have no interest in doing this type of test on YouTube because YouTube doesn't like it. We were talking about the gun oil,
Right.
and somebody that ran the test, with muzzle velocity, and this and that. Any new information on that, or do we have any documented test on that?
What's interesting is the answer is no.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but my path of least resistance is where I go with far as business goes,
Mm-hmm.
and my bandwidth just is not big enough for us to do that.
I got you.
All I know is the anecdotal stuff that guys have told me. That yes, it does, and yes, they've done it, and all this kind of stuff. And I need to document it and have it documented. But that product, we do have it on our website. It's called Bullseye. It's a treatment for it's a gun lube. Should really be only used on the friction points. Your triggers, your slides, your barrels, things like that. But it will once the friction takes place, whether you buff it with like a 4/0 steel wool, or you clean the muzzle out with a steel brush or something. But once you shoot it, for sure, that heat in there will treat the inside of that barrel. But yeah, anecdotally, I've had tons of guys call me up and say, "Wow, you know what? I'm shooting truer. There's a higher muzzle velocity." And I actually had guys that did measure it, but I don't have the data. And I apologize to all of you gun enthusiasts. I've kind of let you down in that, and we'll try to pick the ball up in that.
That's not my realm. So if somebody wants to do that test, if you have one of those, right. I forget what the device is called that measures the velocity, but somebody wants to do that, have at her. Document it, maybe video it. But YouTube is really that kind of type. And I don't want my channel taken down. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Mark M says he's used the additive on his first truck, reflecting back. He saved his fuel pump when he ran out of fuel. What you doing running out of fuel, Mark M? Says good insurance. All right. George, how come you don't talk here about prolong lubricating treatments? I have more use prolong and it works. Just watch your RPMs. I don't know. I've never heard of it. And there's probably 50, 75 different ones out there. It's like I said, I can't research them all, can't comment on them all.
Well, you know what it really comes down to is it's the combustion catalyst. Okay. So almost all the other additives out there, and I don't know Prolong that well. Okay. I know it's big in Canada. I believe it is, at least. That I think I've heard that. But the biggest thing is that do you have a combustion catalyst? Because if you don't have a fuel-borne catalyst in your fuel, in your additive, you know what? It just can't compete. The bottom line is you're not going to pull anything off the shelf that's really going to compete against anything with a combustion catalyst. So that's what it really comes down to.
Okay. Georgia Patriot. I know he's used the products here. I put 1 10-ounce bottle of LFE in my ISX 15 with 500,000 miles on it, and it immediately got quieter, and I have consistently gotten 1 mile per gallon better since the first treatment. That's substantial. 1 mile per gallon. I don't even make that claim. Imagine if you put a full dose in there. I don't know. That's about 1/4 of, your 1 ounce per quart. So
yeah, it's impressive.
That is impressive. It's a pretty big claim. Howie had a hot put on him by vehicular. Huh? What? Nah, I don't know nothing about that. VLOX just got here. Does FuelOx work on a 6.7 Cummins tow trucks? Absolutely. That's a diesel. Any engine, any combustion engine, it's going to work on. Fate Truckin' says FuelOx sales team is outstanding. Been working with the same guy for a few years now. Yeah, so Fate Truckin' works for me, and he calls in you guys now every now and then to, spot check and all that. But they treat him pretty good.
Cool. Good.
Sent him a hat and I think a T-shirt. So we're all set. All right, Dirty Diesel. I recently switched from Rotella T4 over to AMSOIL Signature Series in my Series 60. I was curious if it's worth using the LFE while also using full synthetic. It absolutely is, but I use the AMSOIL in mine. Most of my stuff is AMSOIL. You had made the comment a couple of videos ago about oil quality does not quite mean as much, and maybe when if you're using the LFE, can you kind of elaborate on that?
Well, the LFE is going to help. It's going to help dramatically any oil you put it into. So the oils like the AMS oil is a heavily fortified oil, a very high end synthetic.
It's a good product.
Great oil. Yeah, it is.
Very good product.
Real good product. We'll help them. We'll just have a bigger impact on the cheaper oils. We've actually done testing where we took the Walmart Warren oil and treated it and compared it against the Castrol Edge, I think it was, one of their top end oils. And frankly, we had it tested at, I think, Clark Labs, but it outperformed the Castrol dramatically just by adding 2 ounces of our product into the Warren, non-fortified, bottom of the line oil.
I think I have that test. I don't quite understand.
But we will affect everything. Yeah. We will, but we'll affect everything. I mean, we will have a positive impact on every oil out there.
Yeah. Any idea why I would have high copper and lead levels when I took an oil sample when I did my first oil change with the LFE? Yeah, we just talked about that. So that would be, like you said, in the initial dosage, you're gonna be taking down them surfaces, right?
Yep.
You had said possibly some wear metals.
Yeah, your wear metals will probably be higher after your first treatment with our product, because we're going to remove those. Okay. A lot of the stuff that's the burrs and so forth that are sticking on there.
Yeah, and if you want to see the result of that, Don, go back a little earlier. I showed the electron microscope picture of what happens to the metal, so that makes perfect sense. Cassius King, I'd like to work with fuel ox on a lubricant for the bedroom I've been engineering called Midnight Oil. I think you'll have to find another vendor for that. Sorry about that. Oh, these boys. Tolga says, thanks for answering. I read a few articles about the liquid titanium while listening to you guys, and they're basically explaining the same things. Oh, good deal. Mark M says, just a PSA, don't use the 911 red bottle unless you are actually gelled and can see it in the fuel filter. Yeah, the 911 stuff is for after you gel. It's not an anti-gel. I know a lot of people use that as an anti-gel.
Amazing. It's amazing how many people think it's an anti-gel. It really is. It's like it's like a pure alcohol product. And it's made to do what it said, break up the ice when it forms in your tanks, in your filters.
Yeah. I'd like to see if the heat bomb is better if a driver were to add too much to a full tank. I don't know. I did that video where I did the heat bomb and a 911 and put them in the freezer. I didn't really understand the result, but take a look at that if you're interested. They have a trucker's bundle at a discount price, then use the promo code. Yeah, that's the way to save money right there.
Yep.
Hollywood says the fuel additive is supposed to be used every time in both tanks or just one tank on fill up. Well, it's a per gallon treatment. So, 1 ounce treats 80 gallons. So if you put another 80 gallons in, put another ounce in.
And you don't get the benefit if you don't use it every time.
Right. It's not like the LFE where the treatment is
right.
It's treating the metal. You're changing the combustion of every gallon of fuel. So if it's not in there, it's not going to do that.
Right.
All right. Well, we have come to the end of the comments. Is there anything else you care to talk about, or anything we missed out on? We sure do appreciate you coming here today. I'm sorry to keep you so long. You're kind enough to set aside some time in here. I keep you for 2 hours.
I'm used to these. I'm used to these podcasts that are 3 hours long. So I thought that's where we were going on with it.
I have to keep you in touch with you because pretty soon you're going to be out of reach. I keep seeing you on the NASDAQ channel and all these different things.
I will never be out of reach for you, Adam.
All
So
right. Well,
you've been with us from the beginning, and we love you, and we love your people. It's that's just the way we are. We're a family run business, and regardless of how big we get, we'll always be a family run business.
yeah,
And our values will always remain there.
yeah, we sure
Uh,
do appreciate it. I mean, something different I've been trying to do with the channel because, um, personally, in my life, like I'm changing with the evolution of my business, and I've just kind of had enough of nonsense, and I'm trying to find really good people with great products and great service, great integrity, and bring them to the forefront. You're a part of that. Paul from Freight Connect is a part of that. We need people that can change and help the industry, and the fluff is not welcome. So I mean, that's the thing we're trying to bring out. A lot of times it's products and people that people have never heard of, but I feel like they need to. So that's
right.
kind of trying to go with this and build a community. I've been doing that in my so Paul from Freight Connect, another relationship I have here through YouTube, has taught me building communities and relationships is every bit as important to your business as selling or the service you provide. And I'm really growing in that aspect with my business and trying to bring that to YouTube. So it's kind of what the forward going focus is here. Going to be having some new things here that nobody's ever kind of heard of. And I've kind of come to the opinion if I'm looking for something and it's out there, I'm just going to go do it myself and start it on my own. And I've put a lot of money into that over the last few months, and gosh, I hope it pays off. Otherwise, I'm gonna be one broke son of a gun. But uh, you know, uh, getting less and less afraid to tell people how it is, whether they like it or not. So
I think I think the world needs that right now. You know, we need people to stand up and speak the truth. Um, and we can no longer just sit idly
yeah,
by and let things happen.
it's
You know,
hard. You got to have a
if you're
thick
not,
skin because you're gonna get attacked.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I whether you hear about people, I remember I heard about a guy last week that got involved with his school board because he didn't like what was happening with this and with starting with the books that are in the library and at school. And he said, "This is the last thing I ever wanted to do. But if I don't do it, who's going to do it?" You know,
Yeah,
and that's the world we live in right now. We can't. None of us can sit by and just let things happen anymore. And getting back to something you just said a little while earlier is that you surround yourself with the people that you want to have with you because they're positive influences, and
yeah,
you have to be very careful about who you surround yourself with. Well, you have to be very careful who you do business with.
yeah,
I mean, I've passed on doing business with people that I don't want to do business with because their values don't fit ours. You know, and we're not all about just selling to anybody who wants to buy our product. I mean, needless to say, someone orders something online, or I don't have any choice there. But I'm talking about having real relationships, and we've passed on having real relationships with companies because they just don't, they don't fit with us the way
yeah.
they think.
It's the
You
long game.
know,
It works out, and you got to be able to see that 1,000 yard picture for the long game rather than, oh, I could make this sale right now and make a bunch of money, or I could do the right thing for the next 20 years and
right,
make the money, and I can still live with myself.
right, yeah. It's just, and our times are changing in many different ways. You know, whether it's alternative energy or the technologies that are changing, but the way we think is changing, and the way we think as a people is changing, and it has to continue to improve and not degrade. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
work that has to be done by all of us if we want things to get better.
absolutely.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
Yeah,
We love working with you guys, as I said, and
we do.
I'm sure we'll do this again.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Fuelox.com. Check out their YouTube channel. Also, there's some good videos on there from just ordinary, everyday people saying, what happened for them. And as long as you're shopping there, use my discount code. You get 15% off every order. DIY Semi. Thank you, Rand. If you would hold on for a second, I want to talk to you for just a minute. And everybody
Sure.
else, I'll have a great day.
Have a great day, folks.